asylum?
This administration has created chaos at the border. There's always been issues, but this is a different degree. First of all, their policy of separating parents from their kids was a disaster. It was eventually had to be discontinued, although they're doing some of it in various ways now. But the major policy, they had to reverse themselves on that because it was bad. So what I would do is this. I would pass comprehensive immigration reform. It is one of my top priorities for the first year. And one of the things that I think Donald Trump tries to do is to focus every issue about immigration on border issues, right? As opposed to stepping back and saying, what is the best thing for our country and for our economy? Comprehensive immigration reform. Immigration reform is actually supported by the AFL-CIO and the Chamber of Commerce. It had strong support in different versions from President Bush way back. Interestingly enough, in addition to having strong support from Democrats, it had the support, the last bill we did, that I worked on, had the support of Grover Norquist. Now, why would that be? Because it brought the deficit down by $158 billion in 10 years. Why? Because people come out of the shadows, they pay their taxes, because you have people legally there now that can start businesses, and people can legally work at a lot of in places where we have job openings. And you know what this is in Iowa, job openings in our fields, in our factories, in our nursing homes, in our hospitals, and this president is actually reverse course, trying to deport people who actually are here legally, like those temporary status people in Minnesota. We have tons of Liberians that have worked in healthcare in our state that are afraid they're going to be deported. They're legally here for 20, 30 years, right? So that is a problem for our economy, and that's why comprehensive immigration reform, you have to look at it big picture. And the big picture is to create this path to citizenship. It had the support of Republicans. Donald Trump could have gotten it done, and that would have given us some more money, by the way, to work on focused border issues, as well as, to get to your question, making sure we have personnel to deal with these asylum cases, and most importantly, to help in that area, the Northern Triangle, to work with allies, to work with Mexico, to try to make sure that those economies are stable down there so we don't have the flow that we're seeing of asylum seekers. And so it is all connected, right? Every time they hear down there, or the traffickers hear that he's going to change policies again, or going to do something, what do you think happens? And they go, come on, we gotta go now, we gotta go now. It's just created so much chaos that it's actually created more people coming up. And if you look at the numbers, what I'm saying is true, over the last administration. And so a lot of this is, I just think the best solution is to step back and say, okay, for people who are obeying the law and who are willing to go on this long path to citizenship, let's do that. That brings in money, we know we're gonna get money in. We can spend, most of it will be on debt reduction, but we can spend some of that money on border security, and we can spend some of that money on working with those countries down there, whatever security issues we have, and we will be in a much better place. We will have a better legal immigration system, so you won't have that desperation. Oh, you can also have people apply for asylum in their home country, which is something that we had a policy in place during the Obama administration. And so, coming from Midwestern states like we both live in, I truly believe that immigrants don't diminish America, they are America. That's our own story. In my case, my grandma came over with her parents from Switzerland. My dad's side was all Slovenian, they're working in the mines. But actually my mom's side was more interesting because my grandma came over as a little girl with her parents. And of course, what do you think they did? They went to Wisconsin. They were cheese makers. Oh, cliche. Okay, but my grandpa, he came over and he was like 18, 19, something like that, in search of a better life with a friend of his. And they were going to work in a kitchen or something. And they come over and they get to Ellis Island and they said, I'm sorry, we have reached a limit on Swiss immigrants. Before World War II, it was way before. And so he's like, okay. So he said he was going to Canada. And so he went to Canada for about 1 week. And then he came through, as many people did then, into Wisconsin. And he met my grandma, and he married my grandma, and they had my mom and her brother. And they lived in Milwaukee. And that whole time he lived as a legal alien. He did not apply for citizenship, probably because of how he had come in. Well then, right before getting into World War II, they passed the Alien Registration Act because they were actually looking for communists. And when I was writing my book, The Senator Next Door, I like that because Iowa, John and I found all these records. And he had registered to be an alien because he had to legally, and they asked questions to like root out communists and for everyone in the country. And the question was, what organizations do you belong to? And he answered it, the Swiss Male Choir. Okay, so he then gets registered successfully, and he's pretty emboldened that this has worked. So he then, my uncle, who's still alive, my mom's brother, told me he remembers this, because he then applies for citizenship, and he thinks it's going to be okay. No, they find out what he had done, that he had entered the country twice, everything. So he has to have his hearing, and he has to explain it. And back then, can you imagine what would have happened now? Yeah, I don't think I would be here, right? After he lived here his whole life, worked in the pie shop, done all this stuff during the Depression. So then they listen to his story, and they give him citizenship. Literally just a few weeks before the U.S. enters World War II. And I see, otherwise he would have been deported in the middle of World War II. And I see his little picture with his little bow tie on, smiling. And that's what I think of. So every time I did not know that story when we were debating the immigration bills. I knew that they come from Switzerland, but I didn't know that part of the story. And Senator Kennedy actually had asked me to be in the first group that had worked with Lindsey Graham and others on that first immigration bills. Sheldon Whitehouse and I were the two senators. And then in 2012, I was actually on the Judiciary Committee when we worked on this. So I am really aware of all these battles. But never until I did that research did I know my grandpa's story. And how there are so many stories like that, right? From different countries all over America. And so you need to have a cogent policy to make this work. But right now, we don't have a cogent policy in place. And there's a lot of sad things happening. I was in Florida, I went to that Homestead private detention center with kids and stood on this ladder and looked down at this concrete baked yard where these kids are supposed to be playing every day. And it is a really bad situation we've got, and that's why we need a new president.